right. Well, let's go ahead and get started. We've got about 1 minute, but let's take advantage of it. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here today and being part of this panel. This is actually the first ever HiEd specific panel that we've hosted at JNUC, so very exciting. But we're here today really just to have a conversation and talk about some of the innovative ways that these three leaders in the industry have addressed common challenges that I think we all face and feel. So we really want this to be discussional. We're going to have Q&A at the end as well, and I'll go over that in just a second. But real quick, just to do some introductions here. My name is Ashley Ahrens, and I am a strategic account executive for the higher education team here at Jamf.
And I'm Butch Juelg. I'm the Senior Associate Vice Chancellor for Campus Services at Lone Star College.
Alvin Bridges, Interim CIO, Chief Customer Officer at Mesa Community College.
Jon Griffey, I am the Director for Unified Endpoint Management at Texas A&M University.
All right, I'm not sure if anyone, I see a couple faces from the session before lunch with Texas A&M, but we are going to be doing Q&A just a little bit differently here today. We're going to be using what I like to refer to as a parking lot. And if you could just grab a device and go ahead and scan that QR code. I recommend doing it now. However, I will have it on every slide. So if you decide to wait and then something comes up, you will see it repeated throughout the presentation today, but I have it organized for myself and each of the panelists. So as questions come up, all you have to do is hit that plus mark, and then you can go and input your questions there. Similar to the app, you have the ability to upvote those questions, so that will help prioritize it once we get to that Q&A portion. And as another incentive to communicate and keep the conversation going with us on this platform is all of the contact information for each of the panelists is on there as well. So if there is anything that you would like to follow up with after the session today, they are all very happy to talk with you about any of the items that were discussed. And for those that are joining us virtually as well, please take advantage of this platform as well for questions. And then the one other thing I will say about it is that we are going to keep this open for the duration of the conference. So this will be open through tomorrow as well. And really the goal is we just wanted to provide the opportunity for conversation and collaboration. So maybe after, the fun party tonight and you've had a couple conversations and you want to ask a question to Butch, go on there and as clearly as you can type that out, and we will get back to you tomorrow and address the question then. So thank you in advance for continuing the conversation with us there. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. So one of the first topics that we are going to talk about today is student success. And I've been with Jamf for 10 years now and specifically have worked with education that entire time here. And it's really interesting because from an outside perspective, when you think of higher education, you think of student first. But so many organizations don't actually manage student devices or have a different way that they approach what student success is. So, it's very common to hear that challenge of how do we address student diversity and equity and inclusion in order to provide a successful future for our students. So I know you all got to meet Alvin yesterday on the main stage as he talked about the I Belong program. So Alvin, would you actually kick us off on this one and tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, thank you, Ashley. So the I Belong program happened when COVID basically showed us that we didn't have digital equity across our student population. We were finding that students were doing their homework on cell phones, borrowing computers from other people, family members borrowing their little brothers or little sisters' Chromebook. The results were all over the place. And so we ended up starting the program with PCs. And as you probably are thinking to yourself, that didn't go too well. We had to pull the PCs off the domain. We had to make them general accounts. We gave every user a set of instructions. And that process ended up generating, I think, 83 calls to our help desk in 2 months. Our help desk was overwhelmed. They couldn't keep up. They couldn't help them. There was no remote assistance, no remote management. So we then moved to Chromebooks because we can solve this problem with Chromebooks. Got through that hurdle and ended up 63 of the Chromebooks came back because The students couldn't do their homework on them. It was a problem. I decided at that point we had 200 iPads in carts. Well, let's try the iPads. First semester of the summer session, no calls. Doubled the numbers from 200 to 400. Second session, summer session, no calls. Went from 400 to 1,000 devices. Implemented faculty assistance, no calls. What we found initially was we were able to get the students' devices in the students' hands without creating work for the IT staff. Then the part that came after that was just the stats were off the charts. So can you pull up the stats? What we found was with a little bit of training in a couple of applications, good notes and notability, our students ended up liking the iPads as a learning tool, and it ended up improving their educational outcomes. In some instances, the letter grades of the iPad classes and the non-iPad classes were 1 letter grade higher, and that was 80% of the time. Now, this is not one of those stats that people make up off the top of their head. That's the one stat that I couldn't get on the slides because I forgot it until now. But 80% of the classes, when they compared the non-iPad classes to the iPad classes, it was 1 letter grade higher 80% of the time. Ashley.
All right, and just kind of going through a couple more of these slides that we wanted to just highlight of just different ways that the iPad did have that positive impact on that student users, or on the student users. So again, on the same topic again, Butch, I know that this has also been something that at Lone Star you've been trying to address. How have you all faced this challenge?
Yeah. Again, I'm Butch Juelg. I'm really good at the process and just explaining that to you guys. But if you want to know the technical part and the back end part, Alex, so there, raise your hand, Alex. Alex is here. He'll be glad to answer some questions afterwards. And I've made some notes here to kind of hit the key points. It's a big program, and I want to make sure I hit them all. But please ask us any questions that you want afterwards. We just give a little context. Lone Star College is 8 campuses, 20 centers, 80,000 students, 6,000 employees, so we're a large organization. We're in the Houston suburb area. And so for a long time, we wanted to implement a student loaner program, but you know, that's expensive. You know, we kicked off the program, we finally got funding, was over $7 million to get it kicked off. But, you know, along came spring of 2020, and what happened? COVID, right? So COVID came along, our lives changed. Campuses closed, employees started working from home, face-to-face classes transitioned to online, but what the good thing out of that happened was that we were fortunate enough to receive stimulus funds from the federal government. So now we had funding to do the program we've always wanted to do, and we had an urgency brought on by COVID to do it quickly. So the first thing we did was we worked with an outside company. We did a survey of our students, and we were determined about 9% of all our students did not have the technology they needed to be successful while taking classes at Lone Star, much less during this time when all classes were online. So we started the program with laptops only, kind of like Alvin's group here did, and we quickly found that we wanted to transition into more iPads. We had to work with Jamf and Apple to figure that out, how we're going to do that. We were on-prem only on the Jamf instance. On licensing, we just only managed the devices that were on campus, but we wanted to make this mobile group being able to manage and control those devices. Our main goal was to deploy the iPads with zero touch and to be able to manage them no matter where they were they on campus, off campus. We had to make that work. So our first task was to move our on-prem licensing to the cloud, along with increase our licensing to cover our initial purchase of iPads was about 5,000 devices. So we had a lot to get out in a short time to get there. Oh, that's a song or something, right? The next time, so the way it works, the deployment, the way it worked was students would go online, they would apply, and if they were accepted to the program, they were scheduled to come pick them up. And remember, during this time, our campuses were closed. You know, so what we did was created drive-through lines outside of our campuses, and they would just drive by, show us their ID, and we'd throw the device in their window or throw it in their trunk or whatever they wanted to do at the time, and off they went. So they got home, they turned the devices on, it received the config, it received the software. It was a great experience for everybody, and very simple and very successful. The way we managed this was we used ServiceNow as our ITSM tool. We wrote an app in that managed everything from the application to the acceptance to the scheduling to delivery to return. And we thought that was going to be the hard part, the first half, but we turned out was getting them back was even harder. And without Jamf being able to remotely manage and lock those devices, I think we would have got back a lot less than we get. Right now, we're about 15% that doesn't get returned, which is a lot of devices when you're checking out thousands of them. But that's where we were, and we continue to struggle with that. After 4 semesters, I'm glad to say our goal, we set that at that 9% that we said those devices, we now exceed 9% of the students participating in the program. So that was because of not just IT, but the leadership and marketing and the whole organization coming together and promoting this faculty, promoting in their classes and reminding them at the end of the classes to return their devices. So it's an organization-wide program, not just an IT one. We found that students were more, the retention was higher. We wish, we didn't find what you did, where the letter grades were different, but we did find they were coming back and they were being successful, but not on a higher rate, but they were coming back, and that was a big win for us. And then we also provided some surveys out to the students, and we saw that they really liked the program and really wished it would continue. So since the federal stimulus funds have ended, we have now operationalized the program. We have allocated about $3 million a year to maintain it, which is significant. There's a lot of things that we're giving up and reorganizing to find those funds to continue to provide those devices to the students. And so today we have over 18,000 devices that we check out to students. And which I think that, and that's continuing to grow, and so we'll see how that works out going forward. But our goal remains to continue to try to bridge that digital divide and make sure students have the devices they have and to go forward. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you both. Yeah, that's really both great ways to empower your students and be able to support them. So kind of pivoting, I know that a big topic of the conference has been security, and that's really top of mind at all points. But one of the challenge that I think that all of us can agree are faced in the HiEd space is how do we get better visibility into MAC-specific security in order to make better data-driven decisions? So I'll go ahead and open up and...
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about what we did at Texas A&M. So last September, our campus decided to unify IT on campus, which was great. We had historically distributed IT like most universities within the colleges and units. And when we made that decision, unifying device management was kind of the first thing we thought of as an opportunity. And so for our Macs, we had not had any central management. We had 18 separate instances of Jamf. Spent the last 8-9 months working on unification there, but the visibility piece really has propelled kind of our ability to do a lot of the things that we've wanted to do from a security perspective. Up until that point, our SecOps team really hadn't had a whole lot of involvement with Mac security specifically. They kind of monitored the network and some of the basic things, but with this unification, we were able to give them data and information that they hadn't had access to before, and a lot of that came from our integration with Jamf Protect. We were able to pull endpoint telemetry using Jamf Protect that we couldn't get from any other tool, and that's been really, really helpful in getting a better understanding not only in the devices and the state of them from a Jamf perspective, from a Jamf Pro perspective, but then also being able to see things like who's elevating, who's using sudo, what are the scenarios around that, and Jamf Protect gives us that information that we can then shoot over to our SIM and parse and do whatever we want. We've got some dashboards set up that help us, see and track a lot of the most important things, and our SecOps team has really appreciated it because, as most higher ed institutions, most of the IT teams run pretty lean, and our SecOps team is no different. And so we really partnered, the endpoint side of things, really partnered with them to bring them into the fold and get some Jamf training, and had them participate in our Jamf 370 training we did for some of the other admins on campus. And with that and the value of Jamf Protect, being able to give us some really good information out of the box based on CIS benchmarks and everything, we really accelerated, I think, our security posture on Macs, really just turning on Protect, right? And from there, we've been able to work with Jamf to take it a little further. This summer, we leveraged some of our pro services to get an aftermath integration set up so we can do some remediation of certain things that we see across our Macs, and it's been really fantastic. And for me, from an endpoint side, I've always had the mentality of we kind of do security. Well, that's kind of just baked into the role now, right? Endpoint management is really security as well, and so having access to resources like Jamf Protect and the information, and allowing us to set up things to take action and do so in an intelligent way is really important, and not have to have somebody translate everything and then manually go do a thing. And so we've just gotten a ton of value out of that integration, and hopefully this just is the start of our collaboration with our SecOps team. We're about to embark on a Windows unification effort that is about 5-to-1 Windows devices to Apple devices, so a much larger effort, and that's going to be really important for our success there, securing those unified Windows devices.
Awesome, thank you. Anyone else?
So I'll add to the conversation. First, I'm going to give you kind of go over some of the things that John went over. Our process and what we've done with the unification of all the Jamf tools, Jamf Protect, Jamf Connect, Jamf Safe Internet, has just saved us so much time. The fact that we have all the access to all the heuristics, all the data, all the exploits, all the alerts in the same place, all going back through Jamf Pro for remediation, it has saved my team so much time. My InfoSec team of 2 people is able to manage the 12,000 macOS, iOS devices we have in our instance with just the few amount of hours they spend doing that. It's not the overwhelming, daunting task that some of the other teams that your institutions are faced with. These tools have allowed them to block TikTok in 2 minutes, to be up and running on the compliance of blocking TikTok in 3.5, 4 hours. I mean, things like that are just saving us time. So one of the reasons why we ended up with Jamf Protect, and this is just, I'm going to tell the story because I think it's hilarious. By raise of hands, who in the room has been a Mac admin for at least 10 years? Okay, so I'm talking to you people. You remember back in the day when, if we were our cool admin selves, we would run in the DSCL, we would add our admin account to the hidden user array, right? We all remember doing that. We thought we were so cool, we're so smart. We're gonna take all our admin stuff, we're gonna stick it in private var. No user's ever gonna see it, right? We're the best, we're the smartest, no one's gonna figure us out. So in that mindset of things we've always done, during my beta testing of all the EDR solutions, because our district decided, we're gonna switch solutions, so you need to test everything. And Alvin, since you're the Mac person across the district, you test the Mac stuff. So we tested every solution out there. If you think about it, we tested it. So I ran through the same script of things I was doing. I had my baked-in malware, my baked-in ransomware, my baked-in spyware, and I would run it all. And during that process, I would go through the process of, we're gonna start with the install erase. I'd have my macOS installer in the private var directory where my user account was. I would run the script to run the erase. No harm, no foul. Jamf Protect is introduced 3.5 years ago. And Josh Stein talks about the integration between Jamf Protect and X Protect and Gatekeeper. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. None of the other solutions I tested touched any of that. All right, so let me install it, start my process. My InfoSec guy says, hey, that tool you just installed, it sent me an alert. What do you mean? It blocked something, I don't know. You're the Mac guy, you figure it out. So I go, and it's like, well, it got to be, something happened, I don't know. You messed it up, you're a Linux guy, I'm not talking to you. So I run the process again. It blocked my installation of the erase because it's a script running from a hidden directory of a file in a hidden directory. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. That's kind of like malware. And that moment, I realized that not only was my admin practices old school and I needed to adjust them, but I had a tool that finally had complete connection into macOS and everything that macOS had to offer, and was able to give me the type of security that I've been looking for the last 5 years without slowing my machines down. Ashley?
Thanks, Alvin. That story never gets old. I've gotten to hear it a couple times, and it just is funny every time. But, you know, keeping up with time and being conscious, you know, and similar to security, pre-COVID, because of COVID, and now here we are in this world where, you know, remote work and schooling is talked about so much. So another thing that I believe that resonates with a lot of you all today is, how do you support remote work and remote learning?
So I'll take a little bit of this. So during COVID, all of us our administration came to us and said, we need to pivot. Everyone needs to go remote. And most of us had desktops on the desk. Most of our faculty didn't have laptops. We had to pivot and get devices to users, make sure they had enough resources, peripherals, et cetera, to work at home, be successful, et cetera. So during that process, we're going through using the COVID money to buy a bunch of Macs and buy a bunch of PCs. And during that initial first 6 months, my Mac users, who are already on Jamf Connect, didn't see any change. They literally went home and used their Mac the same way they used it at work. Well, my PC users had to be connected to VPN at least once a day. You had to make sure that not only that you left your machine on at a certain time, so if you needed an update, you could get it. If you wanted an update of an application and it wasn't happening during the maintenance window, you had to connect your laptop to VPN, call us, make sure it was on, and then we'd add that to a required installation on demand now. It was a nightmare. It just didn't work. We implemented CBMC. No matter what we did, the PC users never got the same experience that the Mac users did. So what ended up happening is, over the next 6 months after that, into 2021, the Mac users started showing the PC users what they had and how well it worked. And I had 80 people switch platforms in 3 months. And the next 3 months, I had 100 more people switch platforms. So from the start of the pandemic, I had 280 Mac people in my staff and faculty environment. I'm over 500 now. And all of that happened because of the ease and functionality of our Jamf instance and our Jamf environment with our Mac employees. In addition to that, and this is also another funny story, we hired our first remote employee. In fact, I should call her because she lives in Austin. And I said to her, it's like, I'm Alvin, CIO, nice to meet you. Got a little problem, so I don't know how you want to solve it. So we can get you a PC because you're a PC user. Let me know when your flight comes in. We'll get you set up in the HR office. I'll have my team come over, walk through provisioning, make sure you got everything to go, make sure VPN is working, give you the rules and regulations of how the PC stuff works, so you make sure here's the timing you need to be, make sure it's online, so if you need updates, et cetera. Or you can stay there, and I can ship you a Mac. She stopped for about 2 minutes and said, well, I'll try the Mac thing. She is now committed and stated to me last week, I am never using a PC again. She told her husband, this PC that's in my office, I want you to buy me a Mac because this Mac stuff is great. Ashley.
Thank you, Alvin. Really, and similar to that topic, talking about supporting your users, let's talk a little bit about training and professional development. I know that I hear this often because there's a lot of turnover in this space. It's hard to retain and attract talent. So how do we address that, and how do we help find a positive solution to that issue?
Yeah, this was a really big thing at A&M. We kind of anticipated the impact of the unification and started really early investing in training. And since last August, so not this most recent August, but the one before, we've certified dozens of IT professionals. Thankfully, we had some support from our executive leadership to do this investment, but knowing that we were going to unify our Macs, it was really important that we also equip them to support the devices in this new unified environment. I'd mentioned that we had 18 different instances prior to unification, but really had support people doing their very best to administer those environments, and some doing it pretty well, but most just struggling. And so along with the unification and offloading a lot of those admin responsibilities to now a unified team, we knew that they were going to continue to have to support these devices that were managed by Jamf. And so we invested heavily in training for them. And one of the biggest aspects of that for us as a university and our CIO specifically was making sure that training happened on site in person, which for Jamf was kind of coming out of the pandemic and still not doing a whole lot of in-person training was something that we really appreciated they were willing to do for us. We had 6 different cohorts across different levels of certification that came to campus and did instruction in person. And the value for that for us was them being able to not only get that in-person training, but also collaborate with their peers, get to know the folks that they were now being unified with. And we've seen certifications happen across all verticals of IT. And some of the numbers, Jamf 200, we had around 36 individuals become certified. For Jamf 300, 19, and Jamf 370, we had 9 individuals. We also had one very ambitious individual who decided to achieve Jamf 400 on their own, doing it remotely. But it just goes to show for the number of folks that we were able to certify in the last year, the commitment, the need, right, of training. And I think one of the coolest things that came out of it is we had several people who initially signed up and showed interest in Jamf 200, but after going through the course, really saw the value of it and asked to be a part of the 300 course and go on, and a couple of those even went on to 370. So we just really saw the return on investment pretty immediately. And for us, it's paid dividends because now our IT staff have the confidence to provide the support that they need to our customers. It's created career growth opportunities for a lot of those staff. At least 3 of those team members have joined my unified team to become part of that administration staff. And so for A&M, we hope to continue to invest in training. But for those of you that are out there that are thinking about the value of the Jamf training, I can't speak highly enough about it. It's very thorough, and I think the experience for the individuals is some of the greatest value we've gotten out of this experience.
I guess it's my turn. So I'm going to echo what John talked about. I've also done the same thing with my teams, and all of my teams have gone through Jamf certification. They're all Jamf certified at least a 300 level. I have a couple people on the Jamf 400 level. Because we had COVID money, we opened that training up to our district folks, and folks across our system, 10 colleges, 100,000 students, ended up going through the Jamf certification training. So there are, in my district, in the IT realm, there are 27 certified Jamf admins at least 300 Jamf 300 level because of this training, and it is unbelievable how much better our environment is overall because of it. I did take a slightly different approach to some of the other things that I'm doing. Who in the room is two-year degree college? Any community college people? Okay, besides my man on stage here. So one of the things that I'm really passionate about is diversification of the IT workforce. And one of the things that prevents that is access to these trainings. And we all know that IT certifications are wicked expensive. They're extremely valuable, but when you're dealing with students that have to work, try to go to school, decide if they're going to buy books or if they're going to eat, I mean, those challenges, those decisions don't include a $5,000 training. So one of the things that our partners with Jamf are working on is getting Jamf certification FAFSA eligible. Adding that to our course catalog, and once we do it, the nod is going, that means you can do it too. So doing that will allow those same students who, for whatever reason, don't have the money to go and take a Microsoft certification or a Jamf certification. This will bring that into an area where they're able to do that in a fashion that is something they're able to digest. Because the other thing about Jamf certification, they're awesome, but they're built for us. 4 days, 8 hours, and as much as I believe in the student, I don't know if a student off the street who's not touched tech in one way, shape, or form is going to pass that certification in 4 days. This is something that Jamf and that Mesa are working on continuously, and we will hope to have that by fall of 2024, if not just after that. But my goal in this is to diversify the workforce, to give people who never had a chance an opportunity to take these certifications. In addition to that, these students, when this program is up and running, will be interning in my department for a year. So they'll not only have the certification, they'll have the experience to go out and get a job. Ashley.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I see we're right at 2. I really feel like we could talk about things all day here, but I wanted to just provide the opportunity to the panelists for any final thoughts or items that you wanted to address everyone with this afternoon.
Yeah, one of the main things is I kind of talked to you, everybody, about our program and our problem with getting things back. And without Jamf's help and going forward and making sure that we can lock those devices and track those devices, I think it's going to save us thousands and thousands of dollars, because we could do that, and before in any other way we couldn't do it. So that is something that we're going to continue to do. We've got the participation we were looking for, but now we got to start working on getting these devices back when it's costing us hundreds of thousands of dollars a year on unreturned devices. We also, going forward, we have a new chancellor, just started at Lone Star College, and he has strong thoughts on work from home. And where we were an institution where there was zero work from home, we are going to move that model to a much more lenient, and I'm sure we'll see many people taking advantage of the new opportunity to spend. There's teams that can do all their work from home, right? Our developers, some of our analysts, and all those can work from home, and there's no reason our call center, we have a call center that works 14 hours a day. Those folks, they can all work from home, and so we're going to have to learn how to support work from home environment, and we haven't done that in the past. It's going to be new for us, and we're going to depend heavily on Jamf and the things that we can do to manage those devices, to make sure their devices stay current and stay safe, and they have everything they need to do. So we look forward to that.
Thanks, Butch.
Yeah, I'll share just a little bit of our kind of most important, I guess, idea that we're trying to move forward with as an organization, and Jamf has really helped us with is establishing operational credibility. One of the things that we've struggled with as a university and distributed IT is consistency, efficiency, cost savings, all the things that are very important to an effective organization. And with the tool set that we decided on with Jamf Pro and Jamf Connect and Jamf Protect, we really created an ecosystem that's stable, robust. It allows us to maximize the user experience, and all of those things for us as an IT organization play into establishing that operational credibility. And so as we move forward and continue to try to improve the things that we've wanted to do for a very long time but haven't been able to because of decentralization, we really much appreciate and lean on the capabilities of Jamf, and some of the announcements this week about Jamf Pro 11 and the capabilities there, even more exciting about what we're going to be able to do and offer our customers, and just make that experience for them seamless and drive self-service as much as possible. And so I'm looking forward to it. I think for those of you that are thinking about this or have questions about how to do it or maybe how to do it in your environment, I'm happy to chat afterwards. I know all of us probably are. When we started our unification journey, reached out to several peer institutions that had gone through this, and for me, their feedback and their guidance was invaluable as well. So I'd love to share as much as I can with anyone that's interested. So.
I think my final thoughts boil down to just how the Jamf tools are saving us time and money. I come down to Jamf Safe Internet, and I think to myself, like, how fast I was up and running and compliant when I was given a government order on a Friday, and we were given 30 days to be compliant, that my PC fleet was compliant on the 29th day of 30. My Mac fleet was compliant in 4 hours. And that's something where you can't get those hours back. And just to kind of go into some of that even further, like all of you seen the white paper from IBM from 5 years ago, the Mac versus PC? Yes, no, yeah. So I live that. In my ServiceNow instance, we have a dashboard that shows total cases, and the total cases break down by platform. My Mac cases to PC cases, it's 6 PC cases to every 1 Mac case. And I have an average of 5,000 cases open a month. And so that gives you an idea of how much time my IT staff are spending troubleshooting my Windows environment, which you spend a lot of time and energy curating, perfecting, updating, re-engineering, just to make sure it's as efficient as possible. Even with that, they're still spending dramatically more time touching, fixing, automating things that in my Mac environment are already done, and we haven't touched in 2 years. I mean, we look at it to make sure we can be better, but the way that Jamf has given us the ability to be efficient, it's second to none. Ashley.
All right. Well, I have some final thoughts for you all as well. Hopefully you were able to take something away from this session today, but I really want you to just take a moment as you leave and as you kind of just digest your day at the end of the day today. But think about this session and think about what stood out to you that was talked about today. Were there any challenges that you felt that you could, in your organization could relate to? And then on top of that, are there any action items that you want to bring back to your organization and tools that you feel that you can provide for them of ways to find success within your organization with some of these challenges that we are all facing together? So with that, I would like to just thank you to all of my panelists so much. Thank you all for being here. And then let's go ahead and tackle some of those Q&A.
Fantastic. So I'm Mike Lawrence. I'm one of Jamf's education leadership executives, and I have the honor of facilitating the Q&A. And you guys have been busy. There's like 15 comments and questions in here. A couple of just shout outs and kudos. I'll let you guys read those later. But here's one I think that would be applicable to a couple of you up on the stage here. Can you provide a summary? This was specifically called out to Jon. Can you provide a summary, Jon, can you provide a summary of how your team is planning on supporting the recent directives from the governor's office regarding banned software and certain websites and the need to manage and monitor every device regardless of OS?
Yeah, this is what we're doing. This is what the unified teams were not built for, but the responsibility of the unified teams and the capabilities of a unified team versus distributed IT. But the partnership with distributed IT is paramount, right? And so all of the unification efforts really flow into our ability to meet these directives. And we work very closely with our SecOps team, our cyber defense team, to make sure that we are understanding what the directive means in certain situations so that we can execute. That in a research environment can be kind of challenging, right? And so not everything is black and white, And so we spend a lot of time on those conversations. Our CISO is very much working with the university system to make sure that A&M as a system understands kind of what the directives are and what scenarios. And thankfully, we have a recent exception process that has been established. So we're going to leverage that when we need to. But it boils down really to the unified team using unified tools and these unified environments to execute on what either the university needs, the state needs, the federal government needs. That's our responsibility. I mentioned earlier, we're security. I mean, it just baked into what we do. And so thankfully, my team very much is up for the challenge. I'm very fortunate to have a really passionate team. They see the task before them, and we're working very hard to meet those expectations. On the Windows side, a little more challenging because we haven't yet unified, but on the Mac side, because of the unification and the products that we have, we're able to execute on those things pretty easily, quite frankly. Now, the specifics and technical aspects of it, it depends on the scenario, but tomorrow morning, my team is doing a mechanics of a migration, and you'll have the real technical experts there to talk about some of the mechanisms we put in place for some of that. So I encourage you to attend and chat with them.
Just as a side note, we happen to use the same technical expert, and they're really, really good. So I would highly suggest you go to that session. It's the Mesa team has been invaluable to my team, as well as invaluable to his team.
And I was thinking, Alvin, you might have something to add about banned software and how your institution has addressed that for your state?
Yeah, so in our instance, we take the approach that our goal is to give you everything under the sun. So we curate it, we verify it, we have a software request process, so our goal is to turn those things around in under 72 hours. So even if you need something and it's urgent, we can get that to you in a matter of days. And at that point, it's in self-service in days. And if we need to do it in hours, we've been able to do that with our exception process. But the goal is to verify each piece of software on our devices. So at that point, we don't end up with any banned software. We leverage Jamf Protect, we leverage the restricted software in Jamf. And between those two and the software request process and our ability to turn those things around, we have not had to have anything on our audits that have come up that was basically illegal or not approved by the state. So we've been in compliance for the last 4 years.
Great, thank you. There's another popular question that got voted up 4 times about physical deployment process, and this is for all of you. Can you talk about your process and the teams involved in the purchase to deployment workflow at your institutions?
Yeah, I'll kind of start that off. When we purchase our Mac devices, they are automatically entered into School Manager. And once that happens, then they're registered in Jamf. And then that really helps us with our zero-touch deployment, right? So they're ready to go. All we have to do is kind of assign one to somebody and then let them log in, and they're ready to go. So it's pretty simple.
Fabulous, as it should be.
So our process is also very similar. The only thing that we do different than that is when devices show up, we try to make sure that they're fully baked and ready to roll. So the devices show up on their pallet. The technicians will pull the devices out of the pallet, connect them to the network, let them sit there for 30 minutes. Once they've been curated and uploaded in the ServiceNow, so they can be allocated to the user, so we know exactly who has what. At that point, the devices are then put back in the box and ready for action. We have shipped devices untouched by IT to users all over the state because of the pandemic and remote work. But that's normally our workflow. We average, like I said, 27 minutes per installation as far as the installation time, but it's a 2-minute process. And my teams can deploy. We just did it this summer. We deployed 4 classrooms of Macs, 24 each, and I think it took them 2 hours.
Yeah, at A&M, it's a little more complex. Mentioned centralization of IT, but procurement is still decentralized quite a bit. So we rely heavily on the IT teams within the colleges. We've worked very closely with our retailers to ensure that they're connected to our ASM instance. That's been a huge help, challenge, but a help. Not every retailer is created equal, so some of them have easier workflows than others, but once they're there, that really helps ensure that the device is there. Once it goes through, then forced through enrollment. But at the end of the day, our biggest challenge is making sure that devices are purchased from one of those retailers, that someone's not walking down to Best Buy or your local computer store and buying it on a Pro card or whatever. So we're still working through those challenges. One of the ways that Texas A&M is trying to tackle that is we have a separate initiative that's very kind of impacts my operations. It's called Tech Hub, and we're trying to establish a central campus store for all faculty and staff to purchase equipment that's part of IT and allow us to manage the life cycle of the device from procurement to disposal. And so if we're able to be successful with that, I think it'll be a huge improvement. But right now it's still a really big challenge. So we just have to work closely with our colleges and units to get those devices in.
Fabulous. Now, I just wanted to remind all of you that the QR code is in the resources section of the app. So if you leave here today and think of something you really wish you could have asked, you could go back in there and use that link to get there, especially the folks online. That's true for you as well. Also wanted to remind you that there is a trusted access opportunity for you to try out some of these tools if you don't already have them in your instance while you're here at JNUC. I encourage you to take advantage of that. And then there's a related question I'll throw to you as our final question here. But have no fear, because we're using the Padlet, we will dive in and the team up here will respond to your questions if they aren't asked. And please don't hate me for not asking it. I had like 15 question choices here and limited time to talk about them. So this one is related to Apple School Manager in terms of federation. The question is, has anyone on the panel federated with Apple School Manager? How did that work with your alumni and their email addresses that may already be in use as a personal Apple ID?
I have not.
So one of the values of JNUC, so we have not either. We've been really hesitant because of the perceived impact, and thankfully one of my team members connected with someone here at JNUC that gave some guidance on the ease of federation and the workflow that Apple has developed. That I don't know when this went into place, but when we last looked at it, it was pretty daunting, but is very seamless and straightforward. And so apparently there's a prompt when you federate that allows the user to choose a new Apple ID or create one if they don't have a personal one, that ties all of their personal app purchases and everything directly to that account. And there's not a whole lot to do on the IT side. And so we're going to go right back to College Station and investigate that and see what we need to do to implement it, because I can't move to managed IDs fast enough, honestly. And so we're really looking forward to it. I'm happy to share outcomes if we're able to pull it off with anyone that's interested, but we're in the same boat. We're not there yet, but the future looks bright.
Fantastic. And remember, their contact info is on that Padlet as well, so grab it if you haven't yet. That way you could reach out and find out how that works out for John and the others. It's been my pleasure to be the host and the Q&A guy for this session, and it's an amazing panel. Let's have a round of applause for this panel, sharing out their wisdom. And, of course, a round of applause for your amazing moderator, Ashley. There it is. And I'll hand back to Ashley so she can wrap us up.
Yep, thank you. So I know we didn't get to all the questions, so do check back. We'll make sure that we get those answered for you. And then we also do have a couple brain dates. We have one later this afternoon and one tomorrow. So if you are interested in chatting a little bit more, we are happy to do so in that capacity as well. So thank you. Have a great afternoon. Can't wait to see you all at the party tonight.